What's up, guys? Readiness Reviews here with you again, and I just got back from my very first gun show of 2023, and in this video we're going to be discussing that gun show and what I came home with, along with some discussion about the military surplus market here in the first quarter 2023. So if you like seeing these military surplus collecting centric videos here on YouTube, please be sure to thumbs up this video to help it out with that algorithm, and subscribe to the channel to catch all of my future content. While you're down there, drop me a comment letting me know what the Milsurp market's looking like where you're from. Now let's get into it. So if you've been a viewer of the channel for any length of time, you've probably seen a video similar to this before. I do these Milsurp market videos on about a quarterly basis because it just so happens that that coincides with the time frame that my favorite gun show is in town. That particular gun show is a national arms show put on by R&K, and it's held in the metro Atlanta area about every quarter. I was very surprised at the huge array of military surplus firearms that were present in today's show. As one of my buddies that I ran into at the show said, it was wall-to-wall Milsurps. Of course, there was a lot of other non-Milsurp stuff mixed in, but the selection of military surplus firearms on display was nothing to laugh at. So there was a lot of cool stuff to look at, but prices are another story. I've been holding out hope that we'll see some corrections in the Milsurp market and prices might start going down some for at least a little while. But if this show is any indication of what 2023 is going to look like, it's going to be a rough year for collecting. Rough on your pocketbook, that is. The prices range from right at market value to absolutely insane. And that was pretty much across the show. Based on online sales and all the websites to keep an eye on, I have a feeling you guys are probably feeling the squeeze across the whole country. It's not just here in the Southeast that the prices are through the roof. That same buddy of mine that described the show as being wall-to-wall Milsurps actually had his own table set up. One of, if not the absolute coolest tables at the show as a whole. This gentleman I'm speaking of has a very impressive collection, especially for his age. He is currently active duty military and an Afghanistan vet, so I truly have all the respect in the world for this individual. Today was my first time at actually getting my eyes on some of his collection, and oh boy, eye candy it was. First off, his table was covered in these Afghan bring back Persian rugs, which are a really cool item all of their own, but what was on top of those rugs is really what I was into. He had some very cool niche Milsurp firearms, like a Bulgarian M91 Mosin that he was actually asking less than $5 for, which in today's world is a good price. He had a beautiful Finnish M39 that he admittedly priced not to sell, but the crown jewel of this table were these two gorgeous World War II German G43 rifles. Of course, the G43 was sort of Germany's answer to the M1 Garand. It is a full-powered rifle being chambered in the 8mm Mauser cartridge, and it is semi-automatic. One of his two rifles had the stocks porterized, but they were both gorgeous examples, the Guslav Veka one being especially interesting. So it was fun running into a friend of the channel and getting to check out some of his firearms. But of course, I made all the rounds to vendors that I don't know and saw some really cool stuff elsewhere. There was an SVT-40 at the show, and that's the first time I've even ran across one of those in the wild in like 2 years. But when I saw the price on that rifle, it almost put my eyes out. The guy who was selling it was asking $3,500 for an SVT-40. And to me, that just sounds like complete lunacy. I know that is a very high value firearm, especially in today's market. But to think that I could have bought an SVT-40 for less than $1,000 easily just 4 or 5 years ago really has me kicking myself when I run into someone trying to sell one for $3,500. Personally, I've been looking for an SVT-40 for my collection for a couple of years now, and sadly, they only seem to be increasing in value. The longer I wait to try to find a deal, the more expensive they are when I actually do run across one. So it's not looking like I'm ever going to be able to afford one of these rifles, unfortunately, but I really would love to have the awesome SVT-40 in my collection at some point. All of the awesome history behind those rifles, combined with the fact that they're chambered in 7.62x54R and semi-automatic, makes them one of the coolest firearms of the 20th century, in my opinion, but not something I'm willing to shell out 3 stacks on, that's for sure. The rest of the show was a mix of interesting firearms, but nothing too stand out other than the prices, of course. There were a couple tables set up that I don't know what these guys were smoking. Everything they had for sale was nearing double market value or maybe even more. But with the bad, you do have the good, and there was enough vendors offering Milsurp firearms at reasonable enough prices that there were some things worth buying. That leads us in to my next talking point, what I actually came home with. And that, of course, is this handgun. Now, if you've been watching the channel here recently, this might look a little bit familiar to you. A couple weeks ago, I put out a video review on the Egyptian Helwan pistol, where we went over the history of that firearm a little bit. I'll link that video right here if you want to check it out. This pistol might look like a Helwan, but a Helwan it is not. This is a firearm that I talked about a lot in that Helwan video, and that is because it is the progenitor of the Helwan, the Beretta model 1951. And this example is super clean. Like the Helwan pistol, the Beretta 1951 is chambered in 9mm parabellum, so ammo is easy to find and affordable. These firearms are pretty renowned for being accurate and reliable, and I'm really happy that I now have one to accompany my Helwan. Over the past couple of decades, these firearms have sporadically been imported. In Italy, they were predominantly used as a police and security force issued firearm, and as those departments replace their firearms with newer stuff, the old birds like these get surplused out, and living in the United States, we're lucky enough to be a destination for surplus. The last time these Beretta 51s came in any significant quantity was a couple of years ago. I remember them selling from your CNR websites for as little as about $260. On the current collector market, it's not uncommon to see them fetch $400 to $500, but you can still snag a deal on them every now and then and catch one for about $300 or less. For that price point, these are a fantastic firearm, really a great 9mm to have in your collection. When my father and I walked up on this one, it was under glass in a display case, and the price tag was actually not visible. It was just this blank side. And I said to my dad, hey, there's a really nice looking Beretta 1951. I bet they're asking a lot for it. And he said, well, let's see. And he reached into that case, flipped the tag over, and I was delighted to see that they were only asking $299. Now, a Beretta 1951 for $300 here in 2023 is already a really good price, especially for one that looks as nice as this one does. So I knew instantly that I was going to have to fork over the cash to bring this one home. Of course, I went through the whole process of checking it out, getting a good look at the magazine, which is in fantastic condition, by the way, made in Italy. Had to check out that bore, which is perfectly shiny and has super crisp rifling. And at that point, I knew there's no way I'm denying this firearm. It is going to be mine. At $300, I knew it was a good price, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to at least try to get it for a little bit cheaper. And I offered the gentleman that was selling it $280 out the door. He pretty much instantly agreed, and here I am, home with a Beretta 1951 in hand. It would be an understatement to say that I'm pretty stoked that I picked this up for $280, but it just goes to show you that if you take the time to get out and go to gun shows, you will run across a deal every now and then, and a deal this one was, in my opinion at least. So I've completed an entire video on the Helwan. I guess since I now have the real deal Beretta 1951 in the collection, I'm going to need to do a full video on this firearm. So if you want to see that, be sure to subscribe to the channel to catch that when it comes out. I, for one, cannot wait to get this thing out to the range and send some 9mm with it. Unfortunately, this is the only firearm that I managed to adopt on this trip to the gun show. I was really looking to bring home a new rifle today, but there just wasn't anything at the show that was something that I was looking for at a price point that I could justify. There were people asking $450 to $500 for sporterized #1 infields. We've really made it to a point here that you just have to take the good with the bad. Collecting is not what it used to be. I don't think it will ever be what it used to be. Even though I've been hoping that the market would maybe cool off a little bit and we would see some kind of correction in terms of price, I'm not seeing any signs of that as of yet. And if anything, things are just getting more expensive. I wish there was a lot more true surplus that was available to come into the country from around the world. But it seems like we've reached a point that either most of that stuff is gone or it's become too difficult to import it into the U.S. One of the last bastions of hope that we have is police trade-in firearms. There is very little restriction in terms of laws on the importation of something like this Beretta 1951. And so maybe as police agencies and security forces around the world continue to replace their firearms, we will at the very least continue getting small batches of police guns here in the USA. I did run into a couple viewers of the channel at this gun show, and I'm glad they took the time to stop and chat with me for a while. It was fun making some new Milsurp Nut friends. I will be making a trip out to Texas this weekend for the Gundy Awards. I didn't really promote this on the channel, but I was actually nominated for a Gundy this year in the category Breakout Creator of the Year. Not quite sure how I got nominated. I suppose it came from you guys. I certainly didn't have anything to do with it. But since I was nominated for the award, we're going to make the trip out there to Texas and see what it's all about. I'm about 99% sure that I will not win because the channel's just not big enough. But I'm very excited to check out drive tanks and experience the Gundy's range day, which from videos I've seen from other people looks like a ton of fun. If you're watching this and you happen to be attending the Gundies as well, please be sure to say hey if you see me out there. And I think that about does it for this video. Again, if you enjoy seeing military surplus firearm content here on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button because that really does help the channel out. Subscribe for all my future videos, and don't forget to drop me a comment. I love hearing from you guys, and I will catch you in the next video. See you then. Peace.